All right, my friends, a little technical difficulty there on the far end, but we've got it all set up here once again. This is the Dr. Sem Yankees program. Today is the last day of February. How about that? Remember that this program is affiliated with the greatest Yankees website out there, Start Spreading the News. You can find us at startspreadingthenews.blog. And if you go to Start Spreading the News, you'll see that we put up brand new articles every single day at 6 a.m., 10 a.m., and 2 p.m. If you want great Yankees coverage with writers who are honest and stay true to their opinions, go to Start Spreading the News. Also, remember that these programs are brought to you by Artemisia Publishing. Artemisia is a great traditional publisher who has published a plethora of great books written by none other than me, including the least among them, Roy White's From Compton to the Bronx, the motivational 365.2, the wonderful book Scattering the Ashes. If you have not read Scattering the Ashes, you have not lived. And coming soon, this month, in March, The Greatest New York Yankees by Uniform Number. Go to apbooks.net to get all of those great books. All right, my friends, let's make today a great day. And how do you make your day great? It's very simple. Take the time to look around you and find the good, because there's good everywhere. Even in the worst possible times, you can find good. You can find someone who cares about you. You can appreciate the fact that you have food or a house or neighbors or friends. There's things that if we look, we can still find good. But if by some chance things are so bad that you can't find good, here's the beautiful thing. We have within ourselves the ability to make good. We can do good things for other people. Remember, when you give love, that love comes back to you in greater amounts than you ever gave. All right, so let's get to some Yankees talk. We'll put up the banner for Start Spreading the News. There it is. And so far, the Yankees have had a lot of good luck, good fortune in the spring. There's a couple of negative things that give me pause, but the young pitchers they have all looked pretty good. The Yankees seem to be scoring runs. They're doing what they should. Now, how much stock do I put in spring training stats? Zero. None. Zero. Not at all. I don't really care about spring training stats, and I don't really care about the spring training games. I don't watch most of them. I don't watch them because, they don't count. And when they don't count, I just have a hard time getting interested. You see, when the season starts, I get very interested. But until then, I just don't. I think I'm soured a bit because my whole life I've heard about the player who arrives at camp in the best shape of his life, the guy who hits tremendously in camp, or the pitcher who pitches tremendously in camp, and then the season comes and they're terrible. We see it every year. And I just can't buy into hype and hope that is by and large unfounded. Right now, Yankee fans are high and hoping on Spencer Jones. Spencer Jones is a tall outfielder, a left-handed hitter. Some call him the left-handed Aaron Judge. Except he's been a prospect for years now, and he's now 25 years old, and he still hasn't made it to the major leagues. Now, when he hits the ball, it is impressive, and he has turned some heads this spring because he has hit some tremendous home runs that gets people excited. In the meantime, other times, though, when he's not hitting the ball 93 miles, he's swinging and missing. The history of baseball is filled with players with unlimited potential who couldn't make it to the final level. And one of the reasons that people don't make it, that players fail to perform as major leaguers, is if they have a hole in their swing. And the big concern with Spencer Jones is that he has a big hole in his swing. If he can figure it out, then the Yankees just might have a young superstar on their hands. But if he can't, the Yankees might be just dragging their fans along on another hope that doesn't pan out. Now, I said at the start that we're a site that shares our honest opinions, and we stick by them. One player who has not worked out for the Yankees is their designated hitter, Giancarlo Stanton. Now, let me say right off the bat, I like Giancarlo Stanton. I'm a big fan. When the Yankees traded for Stanton, I was 100% behind the trade. If we could go back in time and be put in the exact same moment, and if the decision making to make the exact same deal was in my hands, I would still make the deal. This is my point about being honest and true to our feelings, what we wrote. It hasn't worked out for the Yankees, but that doesn't make me say, oh, it was a terrible trade. No, I can't fault the Yankees for making that trade because I would have made that trade. And knowing what I knew at the time, if I were to go back in time, I would make that trade. I would make that trade every single day. I'd make it twice on Sunday, as they say. Now, the Yankees haven't traded Spencer Jones. And Spencer Jones might turn out to be a superstar. But according to rumors, and we never know what's the truth or what's not the truth, we only hear rumors. In fact, the best site online, in my opinion, for knowing what's happening with teams and trades and proposed trades and free agent signings and the like isn't called MajorLeagueFacts.com. It's not called WeHaveAllOfTheTruth.com. It's called MLB Rumors. So we don't know if things are necessarily the truth on MLB Rumors until they become facts. But they report on the proposals, the things people hear, the proposed trades, the maybe deals that just might happen. And according to rumors, not necessarily that site, but according to rumors and reports and interactions and things you read online, the Yankees have had opportunities to trade Spencer Jones for some big-time players, and they haven't. No, I'm rooting for Spencer Jones. I have to be honest. I don't think he's going to make it. I don't think he's going to be the impact player so many hope he will be. I hope he is. I'm rooting for him. But that being said, even if he becomes a superstar, he's still an unknown. And if I were the Yankees with a younger Garrett Cole and a younger Aaron Judge, I would have already traded him. Again, if he becomes a superstar, people can look back and they go, you would have traded Spencer Jones? What kind of fool are you? Well, if the Yankees could have traded Spencer Jones in any of these last few years for a superstar player, for an impact pitcher, a closer, or a big-time starting pitcher, maybe Miller, or maybe Corbin Burns before he got hurt, as some of the rumors suggested at the time. Well, if the Yankees got those players, they might have won a World Series. And I would always rather have a World Series ring, or as a fan, a World Series pennant, or just the memories and the joy of watching my favorite team win a World Series, than to bank on the hopes that a young player just might become a superstar. Most young players never become superstars, obviously. So if I ever owned a team, if I was ever the GM, and of course I never will be, but my philosophy is always trade the unknown for the known. Now, Corbin Burns did get hurt, and Spencer Jones could still be a superstar. Those kinds of things happen. Of course they do. But I'd still trade the unknown quantity for the known. I would do that every single day of the week and twice on Sunday. Over the years, that might mean that I might have traded Derek Jeter. Over the years, that might have meant that I might have traded Aaron Judge. Over the years, that might have meant I might have traded any number of players. And then you can say, how terrible of an owner were you? Or how terrible of a GM are you to trade those guys away? And that could be the truth. You could make those arguments. But I also might have traded Eric Milton for Chuck Knobloch. I also might have traded Estevan Florial. I might have traded Clint Frazier or Miguel Andujar. Or I might have traded Jose Tabata. Or I might have traded any number of the great supposed upcoming Yankees. I believe there was a time and again, I don't know if this is true, but I remember it from the time that the Yankees in the mid-90s didn't trade for Randy Johnson because they didn't want to part with Sterling Hitchcock. Think about that. I'd always trade Sterling Hitchcock for Randy Johnson. No matter what Sterling Hitchcock might have become, the odds are that he would never be Randy Johnson. I didn't mind that Jose Rijo was part of the trade that brought the Yankees Rickey Henderson. And of course, in this, I was giving extreme examples. Derek Jeter was different than most prospects. So he was one I may not have traded. I used him as an example, but I probably wouldn't have traded Derek Jeter. But going back to Giancarlo Stanton, another perspective, again, yes, I would have traded for him. I would have also the next winter signed Bryce Harper, and I would have had a powerhouse outfield. quick aside, I'm always against taking players from their positions and putting them in positions that they don't really play. The Yankees do this a lot. They like trying Jazz Chisholm as a third baseman or trying Isaiah Kiner-Falefa as a center fielder. We see this all the time. And when I make those points, some people who write in to start spreading the news tell me, you don't know anything about baseball. What's funny is some of those same voices were the same ones that argued that the Yankees couldn't have an outfield of Stanton, Harper, and Judge, because you might be playing one of them out of position. And again, I'm not a fan of playing players out of position. But I think Bryce Harper would have been able to figure out playing left field or center field, and the Yankees would have been fine with that outfield alignment, and they could have rotated at DH or whatever. I do think there are times when there are exceptional talents, exceptional players who can make transitions. And getting Bryce Harper in his late 20s, in his prime, oh my goodness, wouldn't that have been something? But anyway, the Yankees did get Giancarlo Stanton, and he's been a huge disappointment. And now here we are, another season and another spring training, and Giancarlo Stanton is injured. He is saying that his elbows hurt so much that he can't open a bottle of soda or open a bag of potato chips. Now, why is it that this information is only coming out about a week or 2 weeks into spring training? And why is it that the Yankees didn't know this? Or if they did, why they didn't try to address the problem? There were guys who could have been your DH. And I know the Yankees are saying, and I know the Yankee apologists are saying, well, hitting a baseball is different than opening a bag of chips. And guess what? They're right. But I think the fact that it hurts a player that much to do certain actions with his arms does not seem to indicate that that player is going to have a productive and effective year. I could be wrong. But I think the history of Giancarlo Stanton, who I like and who I root for and who I was thrilled the Yankees acquired, I don't think the odds are that he's going to play a whole lot of games. And I don't think the odds are that he's going to be an impact player for the 2026 Yankees. And the fact that he's continually hurt is a shame. I feel bad for him. But if the Yankees are truly serious about trying to win a World Series, one would think that they would have looked at that and addressed that long before spring training ever arrived. Now, again, I said at the start, the young Yankee pitchers are looking fantastic. The reports are that they're pitching great, they're throwing strikes, they're pounding the zone, they're doing great things. And with that, I have to be extremely happy and hopeful, because the big-time Yankee pitchers, Carlos Rodon and Garrett Cole, are starting the year on the disabled list or injured list, and Clark Schmidt as well. And now there's questions about the health of Cam Schlittler. Yikes. That Yankee starting staff could be in dangerous shape. Now, if they all come back, it could be a phenomenal staff. But again, I think when you base your entire team on if and maybe and I hope, you're asking for a lot of good things to happen. things that are probably not likely to happen over the course of the long season. So those are the big stories about the Yankees. You might want to go to start spreading the news. Coming up in the coming days is an interesting article I wrote that I first had published with the International Internet Baseball Writers Association of America. They have a daily newsletter. It's called Here's the Pitch, and I'm a contributor to that daily newsletter. I write about 2 articles a month for them. And I was thinking about all the great Yankees who've won so many rings. And I was wondering, who's the greatest Yankee who won only one? Which Yankees have won only one ring? And I won't tell you who I came up with in that. But as I researched it, I found an inconsistency that has to do with the way Baseball Reference reports on how many World Series championships a player has. In the early 1970s, I think it was 1972, Reggie Jackson scored a run as a member of the Oakland A's against the Detroit Tigers and was injured scoring. That was long before I was a fan. I was about 4 years old. I didn't know anything about baseball. I didn't know anything about playoffs. I didn't know who Reggie Jackson was. I didn't know who Babe Ruth was. I didn't know Mickey Mantle. I didn't know any baseball players. So this is just history that happened before I was rooting. But Reggie was injured. He was on crutches. I believe it was 72. And he did not play in the World Series. He couldn't play in the World Series. He had hurt his leg and he was on crutches. Yet Baseball Reference gives Reggie Jackson credit for being on the world champion A's that year. That season is considered one of the years Reggie was on a World Series winner, but he did not play in the World Series. He couldn't. He was injured and on crutches. And as I was looking through the list of Yankees on Baseball Reference and trying to figure out which one had only one World Series victory, I came across an interesting name. Now, they don't have them listed that way. You have to dig and do your own research and look at each individual player that you're considering. But I came across an interesting name who had only one World Series ring, according to Baseball Reference. And that player's name, believe it or not, is Willie Randolph. Yeah, take a moment, think about that, and ponder it. Willie Randolph? Willie Randolph was on the 77 Yankees. They won the World Series, and he was on the 78 Yankees. They won the World Series. But, wait. Willie Randolph didn't play in the 78 World Series because he was injured. Now, think about that. Now, maybe if we dug deep, he was left off the roster because he was injured, and maybe Reggie was kept on the A's roster, which wouldn't make any sense because he was injured, or they didn't have a player to replace him, or whatever. I don't know. But Willie Randolph was certainly a member of the 1978 World Champion Yankees. He was their second baseman. But get this. The 1978 Yankees position players around the diamond, for the most part, Thurman Munson at catcher, Chris Chambliss, first base, Willie Randolph, second base, Bucky Dent, shortstop, Greg Nettles, third base. Left field, you might have Lou Piniella or Roy White. Center field, Mickey Rivers. Right field, Reggie Jackson. One of those guys, maybe Piniella or White, would be the DH if the other one was playing in the field. There were other, players around. I believe Paul Blair was still on the 78 Yankees, etc. But there were some big name guys there. Guys who, like Reggie, are in the Hall of Fame. Guys who, like Nettles and Munson, most people believe should be in the Hall of Fame. Guys who had long, impressive, terrific careers with the Yankees, like Roy White. A former Rookie of the Year in Chris Chambliss. Those are a lot of good ball players. Do you know who led the 1978 Yankees in WAR? The player who led the 1978 Yankees in WAR was, yes, Willie Randolph. If he wasn't injured, he absolutely would have been the second baseman on the Yankees in the playoffs and in the World Series. He was, by WAR, the most valuable Yankee position player in 1978. And yet he's not given credit on Baseball Reference for being a member of the 1978 World Champion Yankees. It makes no sense. There's an inconsistency there. Reggie didn't play. He couldn't. He was injured. He gets credit for being on the World Championship team. Randolph couldn't play because he was injured, but he doesn't get credit. And again, I know there's a nuance there, and it probably has to do with roster construction, but I think smart baseball fans and smart baseball researchers can look beyond the number of names on a roster and say, no, Willie Randolph absolutely was part of the 1978 World Series Yankees. He absolutely was. He was an integral part of that team throughout the entire season. And the only reason he wasn't playing was because he was injured. Interesting thing to look into, an interesting thing that comes up when you do baseball research. All right, my friends, that brings us very much close to the end of the show. I would like to reference one other wonderful publisher. Their name is Sunbury Press. You probably want to check out Sunbury because they have published my latest non-baseball book, West Point at Gettysburg, Volume 1, A through G. It's going to be one of 3 books that I am working on. The first one, West Point at Gettysburg, Volume 1, is complete. Volumes 2 and Volumes 3 are in the process. But go to Sunbury Books at sunburypress.com and get your copy of West Point at Gettysburg. My friends, remember to look for the good. Remember to do good. Remember to be kind. Remember also that rooting for a baseball team is a hobby and it's supposed to be fun. And while we might get upset about the way teams work and operate, it should still be with the sense that this is enjoyment. This is what we do for leisure. We should not get mad at other people because they have different perspectives on the team than we do. We shouldn't insult people because they're fans of other teams or their perspectives or ideas are different than our own. Think about that. Just enjoy the fact that we root for baseball teams and that we enjoy watching the sport. Make each day great. Give love. It will come back to you in greater amounts than you ever gave. And have yourself a wonderful week.